Let's talk about something that doesn't get said enough at work. Being a good leader is not enough. Because if your leadership isn't visible, it's not being evaluated. And if it's not being evaluated, it's not being rewarded. So today, we're not changing who you are. We're making sure your leadership can actually be seen. A lot of people think if I work hard, if I support people, if I show up consistently, then leadership will naturally be recognized. But that's not how most workplaces operate. Workplaces don't reward effort. They reward what they can see, measure, and communicate upward. So you can be leading quietly, supporting your team, holding everything together, and still be seen as not demonstrating leadership. Not because you're not leading, but because your leadership is happening in ways that are invisible to the system. Let's break this down clearly. Invisible leadership looks like helping coworkers behind the scene, fixing problems quietly, being the emotional support for the team, anticipating issues before they happen. That's real leadership, but here's the issue. It doesn't always leave a trace. Visible leadership looks like speaking up about solutions in meetings, naming problems and offering direction, communicating impact clearly, being associated with outcomes. Same level of capability, different level of visibility. And visibility is what gets recognized. Now let's go a little deeper because this part really matters. Invisible leadership doesn't get ignored because it's not valuable. It gets ignored because most managers are trained to look for what they can track, report, and justify. You see, they're thinking in terms of performance metrics, output, deadlines, results they can explain to their leadership. So if your leadership shows up as emotional support, preventing problems before they happen, keeping the team regulated and steady, that's powerful. But it's harder to measure. And if it's harder to measure, it's easier to overlook. And here's where it gets real. Sometimes it's not just your leadership is invisible. Sometimes you're being undervalued or deprioritized. And that's a different conversation. Because if you've already made your impact clear, communicated what you're doing, shown results, and nothing changes, that's not a visibility issue anymore. That's a value issue. And we're going to talk about that more in this series. Because a lot of people stay in places where they're giving leadership but not receiving recognition. But before we go there, let's focus on what you can control right now. Because for many of you, the shift starts with making your leadership visible in a way that your environment can actually recognize. So the goal is not to become a different person. The goal is to translate what you're already doing. Now let me show you what that looks like. Instead of saying, I help the team stay on track, say this instead. I identified a workflow issue and helped realign the team to meet deadlines more efficiently. Instead of saying, I supported my coworkers, say this instead. I helped stabilize team performance during a high pressure period by providing consistent support and problem solving. Same work, but now it sounds like leadership. It feels like leadership, Most importantly, it's recognized as leadership. Let's make this actionable. Here are 3 ways to make your leadership visible. 1. Name your impact in real time. Don't wait for performance reviews. When something goes well, say this: one thing I focused on here was improving, and here's what I'm seeing as a result. 2. Speak up once per meeting. You don't need to dominate the room, but you do need to be heard. And 3. Connect your work to outcome. Always link what you do to efficiency, performance, stability, and results. Because that's the language leadership responds to. And let me say this clearly: making your leadership visible is not bragging, it's not ego, and it's not changing who you are. It's making sure your impact is not overlooked in a system that only rewards what it can see. Because if you don't speak to your work, someone else will speak louder than it. So if you've been leading quietly, this is your shift, not to become louder, but to become clearer. Your leadership already exists. It's time for you to be seen. Your ideal self is a direction. Your current capacity is a starting point. And sustainable growth happens in the space between the two. SC at W, self-care at work, where calm people change learning and work cultures. In episode 3, we're going deeper. Why you can be leading and still watch someone else get promoted. We're going to be honest about it.